Hi, thank you for checking out this tour of standards-based grammar. I'm going to use the grade 3 edition to show you all the features of this program. So if you'd like to take this same tour using another grade level edition and see the worksheets from another edition, just exit this tour and click on one of the other grade levels, and you can take the same tour using the worksheets from that grade level edition. In this quick tour, I'm going to show you the features that make this grammar program so powerful. However, there is another tour that gives tips and advice for how to get the most out of this book. The first part of that tips and advice tour will go more in depth on how I teach different worksheets from the different grade levels of standards-based grammar. However, the second part of that tour will show you how to organize your entire writing program to help you incorporate the grammar skills your students are learning from this book into your entire writing program. So if you're interested in this grammar program, I highly recommend checking out that tips and advice video when you have more time. Okay, about this tour. My goal here is to show you that standards-based grammar is powerful enough for you to use as your daily grammar program, but also affordable enough to get if you only need a couple of units. With that in mind, here's a list of the features in standards-based grammar along with the timestamps in case you want to jump ahead to another section. What I'm going to show you is, first, I'm going to cover the worksheets and how they're designed to help you get the most out of your grammar instruction time. You'll also get to see several sample worksheets as well. Next, you'll get to see the extensions, which is a really powerful tool to get your students using the grammar skills in the context of actual writing situations. You'll see how the tests and checklists work together to really supercharge your program. And finally, I'll quickly review the student consumables option, which can save you tons of time in your prep work. So let's begin with the worksheets. Here's a quick look at the table of contents so you can see the standards that are covered. Feel free to click pause if you'd like to take a longer look at the table of contents here, but I'm going to move right into the first worksheet. And that's going to be true for many of the worksheets in this video. I might be jumping very quickly, so just pause if you feel like you want to see it a little longer. So obviously, the worksheets are the heart of the book. So let's take a look at how the worksheets are organized. Now, this is standards-based grammar, so each grammar skill is a standard. And you can see here on this worksheet that the standard is phrases. Specifically, the students will be learning about verb phrases and prepositional phrases. The way this book is organized, the first worksheet of every standard will have a lesson at the top. For the busy teacher, this is great because it just takes a minute or two to review the lesson there at the top and you're ready to go. You're ready to teach the lesson. So the lesson will either be in a box or it'll be up there at the top of the worksheet. You just review it very quickly. I recommend that when you do teach the lesson, you annotate the worksheet with your students by highlighting and circling keywords. This will help keep the students engaged. It'll keep them with you, help them focus on what you're trying to explain. Then you'll have these annotations and the lessons from the first worksheets of each standard to use as a review for future worksheets on that standard. And it'll help them have a place to go back and see the lessons that you already taught. I also recommend that you have the students keep a grammar journal. There will be times when you want to extend the lessons, and the grammar journal is a great place to do this. Also, you're going to see in the next section, the extensions, the students will need a place to practice their extensions and practice their grammar skills in real writing situations. And the grammar journal is a great place to do this as well. In the tips and advice video, I go into much greater detail on how to use this grammar journal. So again, I highly recommend that tips and advice video. Next, after you go over the lesson from the first worksheet, you'll find an activity that starts getting the students comfortable with this new skill. So when you begin a standard, you'll have a lesson and you'll have an activity that gets the students comfortable with this new standard that you're really about to get into. Okay, now that your students have done the first worksheet of a standard, the worksheets that follow will focus on mastering that standard. So here you can see on the following worksheets that the students are being led to a greater standard, which is understanding what makes a sentence, and just as important, what does not make a sentence. In the previous chapter of this third grade edition, the students learned that a sentence has a subject. You can see here they learned that the subject is the who or the what of the sentence. And a sentence has a predicate, the verb, and the complete thought of the sentence, which just states what a subject is or does. However, sometimes the students will leave out an important detail, creating a fragment sentence, or they may add way too much, creating a run on sentence. So, when learning about sentences, the students sometimes think that they are writing a sentence, but they're really just writing a phrase, or they might be adding too much to a sentence and writing a run on sentence. In this case, they will learn to break run on sentences into two better sentences. And that leads us to the worksheet where the students get to practice looking at a paragraph and checking for fragment and run on sentences. Third graders will often put and or then when they really should have just put a period. So here they're trained to look for this error, and it's something that you could point back to when you have the students revise and edit their own writing. They get to practice the editing process right here on the worksheet. So you could just show them this worksheet and remind them that they know how to do this when they edit their paragraphs in the future. Here you can see the first and. The advanced students may know that they can put a comma after ever and make a compound sentence, and you could point that out later. However, for now, the students will just change the and to a period and then capitalize all, and then now they have two correct sentences. Now, speaking of the advanced students, you'll have some students finish this worksheet very quickly. So you can have the other students finish this worksheet on their own while you go over multiple ways that the advanced students can fix this paragraph. And it's a great way to get a little mini lesson and help the advanced students take their writing to a higher level. You could ask leading questions such as, is there a list of sentences we can turn into one sentence? So you can see here that we can change, we hit a piñata, then we played games in our backyard, then we ate ice cream with any topping we wanted, then I got to open my presents. And after discussing it together with the advanced students, we might end up with, we hit a piñata, played games in our backyard, and ate ice cream with any topping we wanted. Finally, I got to open my presents. The great thing is the other students will hear you doing this with the advanced students, and they'll absorb some of that, and it becomes just a great way to really expand the lesson. Just think about all the bonus learning the advanced students got with this little 5-minute add-on. They learned about sentence combining. They learned about commas in a list, which is a really great writing trick, by the way. They learned about using introductory words like finally, and they learned about how to punctuate introductory words by putting a comma after it. So lots of great extended lesson opportunities with the standards-based grammar program here. So standards-based grammar really gives you a great opportunity not only to teach grammar and punctuation skills, but also to get the students to put these skills in their writing, which is the ultimate goal for teaching grammar and punctuation anyway. Moving on, I'm going to show you a few more worksheets from standards-based grammar. Just know that you can download more sample worksheets on the standards-based grammar grade 3 webpage. There's a link in the description you can see there. So if you want to see a little bit more, just click on that link and you can download some samples. Here are a group of worksheets on the parts of speech. In third grade, we're really trying to get the students to understand the parts of speech because there's so much you can do once the students have a firm grasp on these. There's a great way to burn the definitions of the parts of speech into the students' minds, and that involves creating visual mnemonic devices. In other words, creating a picture that the students can see in their minds that helps them remember the definitions. There's so many definitions to remember. They've got to have some kind of trick to really lock them all in, and this is a great way to do it. The goal here is you just want this picture to pop up in the students' minds every time they think of that part of speech. In this case, it's nouns. What they'll do is the students will combine a picture of a word that sounds like noun and attach the definition to it. The worksheet here suggests none, but I often use the word clown. So either way, the students will draw something like the clown was at the circus in the ring, person, place, or thing. Or the nun went to the church wearing a ring, person, place, or thing. The students draw the picture and practice chanting the trick as they picture that trick in their minds. They continue to combine the picture with the definition as they complete the worksheets. And before long, the definition of nouns is firmly burned into their long-term memories. You can see here that for the other parts of speech lessons, they continue to make visual tricks to help lock down the concepts. Because there is so much to memorize, these visuals are really helpful. Then here's a worksheet where you can see them getting practice, where they're using the visual tricks they just learned by drawing the pictures to complete the worksheets. So very quickly, let me show you a few more worksheets. Here's a very popular worksheet that helps students learn how to spell words when the spelling for the plural isn't formed by just adding S. For example, the singular toy would just be toys. You just put an S on toy and make toys. But the words here on the worksheet don't follow this pattern. So the students learn the rules for the words that break the pattern and practice them on the following worksheets. I do 2 rules a week. We learn the rules, we complete the worksheets with our other spelling activities, then we take a test, and after 3 weeks, they've got it all locked down. Here's a quick look at the unit on comma rules. You can see that the students are learning to place commas in dates, locations, lists, adjectives, and letters. There are plenty of worksheets for each comma rule, and there's a mixed review before the test. The really fun part here is watching the student sentences improve in their writing assignments as they work through this unit. You'll see how this happens when I go over the extensions, but it's really a lot of fun to see their writing improve in real time. Finally, here's a review worksheet from the unit on prefixes and suffixes. The students learned that a prefix changes the meaning of a word, such as paint becomes a new word when we make it repaint. And a suffix changes the part of speech of a word, like break can change from a verb to an adjective by adding able, making breakable. The meaning stays the same, it's just used differently. The next feature that I'm going to show you is the extensions, and you'll see that some of the worksheets have extensions on them. The extensions really take standards-based grammar to a whole new level. Again, the goal of standards-based grammar is to help the students apply grammar skills within the context of actual speaking and writing situations. The extensions here are where the magic really happens. After you teach the first worksheet of a standard, many of the follow-up worksheets will have extensions on them that are designed specifically to get them using these concepts in their speaking and writing. Now, the extension is a small writing assignment where the students are practicing their grammar skills in real writing situations. You can see here on fragment and run-on sentences number 1, when the students finish the activity on the top, here's an extension down at the bottom. You can see in this 10-minute activity that the students are asked to turn the fragment sentences on this worksheet into complete sentences by adding the missing piece, either the subject, the verb, or the complete thought. I would even have them label the parts of the sentence when they finish, putting an S above the subject, a V above the verb, and I just have them put CT above the word that completes the thought. Now, I often do the extensions with the students because when you do the extensions with the students, it gives you so many opportunities to model good writing and point out other writing skills. Again, I go into much more detail about how I do this in the tips and advice video. Again, highly recommend that video. Very quickly, here's a couple more extensions. Here's phrases, where the students need to write these prepositions in a phrase. This is good because prepositions is really a fourth grade standard, and this gives you a chance to introduce the prepositions, and it really helps out the next year's teacher. It kind of front loads the concept, and it is appropriate here, so it really should be a third grade standard as well. Now, here's an extension about nouns. It's a great way to help students start noticing the proper nouns around them in everyday life. And it'll help them start classifying these nouns into categories of common nouns. And that'll further help it lock into their memories. Finally, here's one more extension on comma rules. As a teacher, as I mentioned earlier, comma rules are really exciting to teach because you get to see an immediate impact on their writing. As you're checking their grammar journals, you're just going to be really impressed with how good their sentences are getting at such a young age, because the comma rules end up becoming writing tricks. And if you add this with Writing Tricks Plus, our other book, or the Complete Writing Program, you're really going to have the students locking in these writing tricks, and the quality of their writing is just going to explode. Like here on this example, when you see third graders writing sentences like, "The lady did a thrilling, graceful twist," you could even the next day make a second extension out of this by asking the students to use a thesaurus to change two words and then add a phrase. They've learned about phrases, so have them add a phrase. So have them change two vocabulary words using a thesaurus, have them add a phrase. Now their sentence might look like, "The acrobat performed a thrilling, graceful twist high above the crowd." So trust me, when you do this, have the students read their sentences to each other, illustrate them, then post them around the room. Make a big deal about how good their sentences are, and they'll get really excited about learning more writing tricks. As you can see, these extensions are really a powerful part of the standards-based grammar program. So moving on to the next powerful part of the standards-based grammar program are the tests and the checklists. The tests and checklists work together to really supercharge your grammar program. The tests by themselves are just tests. You teach, students learn. How do they do? That's a test. The checklists help turn the test into assessments where you get to see exactly where the students are still struggling and get them the help they need now, instead of just saying, "Oh, well, we got to move on. Hopefully the next year's teacher can help you get it, but I have to move on." With the checklists, you'll have exact knowledge of the students' weak areas. And these checklists will help you get the students the help they need now, instead of just hoping that they get help later. Again, tips and advice video shows you a lot more about how to do that. So the first checklist I'm going to show you is the parent checklist. I know it says student checklist on the top of the paper, but it's really for the parents, so I'm going to call it the parent checklist. The parent checklist goes to work before you even start each unit, because you can use the checklist as an overview and give it to the students to review the terms that they're about to start learning. This gives you an opportunity to front load some of the vocabulary, maybe talk about situations where they might use this in real life situations, maybe do some anticipatory sets, and it just gets them ready for what they're about to hear. So not only does this help the students get familiar with the new terms, it also serves as a reminder that when the test is finished, that they are going to take this checklist home and get a parent's signature. So it does raise the students' level of concern right away, because after a unit or two, the students are going to see this paper and go, "Oh, this is the one that's going to get my parent's signature, so I better really pay attention to these lessons." Now, the main use of this parent checklist is that it works with the test. So let's take a quick look at a test. You can see that the test is organized into 3 standards, and you can see those 3 standards on the parent checklist. There's the first one, the 4 types of sentences. The second one, subjects and predicates. And the third one, finding subjects and predicates. Now, here on the test, if the student does well on a standard, I put a star. This means that they've mastered the standard. If they don't do so well, I'll just leave it blank, like on part 2 here, subjects and predicates. On this example, the students pass parts 1 and 3, so they get stars. So on the parent checklist, you'll mark mastery for 1 and 3, and you'll mark non-mastery for number 2. This checklist is part 1 of getting the students the help they need right away for their trouble areas. You could send the parent checklist home for a parent's signature, but you can also send it home with more worksheets, or better yet, a list of websites that offer games or tutorials for grammar skills. Many parents would love to have their children practice the skills they didn't quite get in the class and help them continue practicing these skills at home. It's a great way to partner up with the parents. Some parents may even get a tutor, which would be amazing. And now you're truly a partner with the parents to help get more help for their students and not just abandon them after they take the test. However, before you send the test and checklist home, let's look at another way you can use this parent checklist to help get more help for the students. Now, this here is the student checklist. I keep a copy of this checklist for each student in a file near my desk. And after each test, I'll record the student's results on this checklist. So on this checklist, you can record the student's results here. Then after the test, you can continue to record the results of each test here on the student checklist. It's a great way to keep track of the standards you've taught, as well as a way to keep track of every student's progress all the way to the end of the school year. This is another way to get more help for your students, because both the parent and student checklists can be given not only to the parents, but also to support staff at the school. You may have a classroom aide who works with the students, a parent who comes in to help, or an RSP teacher. Sometimes high schoolers will come over to our campus to tutor the students. This gives them something specific to use to help the students with their trouble areas. Many schools have resource teachers. We call them RSP teachers, who would love to have this information to help them set goals for the students and give them something to work on during their RSP time. There's so much you can do with the tests and checklists here besides just seeing how did they do on an exam and then just walking away. To wrap up this tour, standards-based grammar's goal is to help the students get complete mastery over all the grammar standards and to help them master it so well that they're actually using these standards to make their speaking and writing better. Hopefully you've seen just how powerful this program can be. But there's even one more way to make this program even stronger, and that's by using student consumables. There are several ways to get information on the student consumables. You can click on the consumables link at the top of the web page and get information that way. You can also click on any edition for standards-based grammar on the home page, which will also take you to a link to download more sample worksheets. Then at the bottom of the page will be ordering information, information on purchase orders, and information on the student consumables. Finally, remember there is a video where I show more tips and advice for using standards-based grammar. In that video, along with the tips and advice for the lessons in standards-based grammar, are 3 strategies for teaching your entire writing program that can really change your life. I highly recommend it. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and go create better writers.
CreateBetterWriters.com